Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our 1111 webinar. We are going to be discussing today's topic, which is networking, the last piece in the AI puzzle. Some of the things we're going to cover on today's webinar are going to be around the impact of AI and how AI consumes network resources, also around intelligent troubleshooting, right? How to leverage AI to get to the root cause of infrastructure issues and minimizing downtime, and tie that all together with how it relates to managed network solutions. So I think we've got a really good webinar in store. And without further ado, I just want to introduce who's going to be joining me today. We have Jeff Robator, our Executive Vice President of Global Connectivity here at 1111 Systems. Also, Anthony Lobretto, Senior Vice President, Connectivity Services here at 1111 as well. My name is Brad Gerlach. I'm the Product Marketing Manager at 1111, and I'll be going through the presentation with Jeff and Anthony, and we are going to have a really cool giveaway. Everyone who is joining us today has been entered into a chance to win a pair of Ray-Ban Meta glasses, very fitting with the topic of AI. One of the things we are going to have when we wrap up here is a Q&A session. I hope we're going to have some really good questions. And if we don't get a chance to go through and answer your question on today's session, we will go and follow up with you afterwards. So let me go ahead and turn this over to Jeff, and we can start the discussion.
Great. Thank you, Brad. Really excited for the conversation today. And like you said, really the wrapping up as we talk about AI and what goes into it. Starting here, when I think about AI in general, it's about driving efficiencies across your business. It's about how do we get more out of our data, and how do we drive better outcomes and increase revenue while creating a better customer and internal user experience. Right. So as you think about all those things we're trying to drive as an outcome of AI, what does that do when we look at today's? What does that do to the network itself? So a couple of things in here. It's gonna increase your traffic, right? Ultimately, you're gonna have more going across your network in general. You're gonna need greater bandwidth, and it's gonna be more unpredictable as far as when you need that bandwidth. You're gonna need more access to your cloud environment and multi-cloud environments. One of the things we look at pretty regularly with customers is where do those workloads, where does your data need to sit, and how do you best need to be able to reach that? AI is just accentuating all of the needs around that from a network perspective. And then ultimately, time is critical, and you're going to need low latency network environments in order to make that AI work effectively for your business. You go to the next slide. So what does 1111 Network as a Service, our NAS, offer? What do we do to help organizations improve and to get to that desired outcome when they're looking at AI initiatives? Well, the first thing is around performance, right? So we're able to help from a network perspective to drive better AI performance across their entire organization. Part of the way we do that is by helping to reduce latencies. We were actually with a customer last week who's looking at that. They're driving some large file initiatives, and ultimately AI is going to be a huge advantage to them as a business, but they have to get closer to that data. So looking at how are we able to help them reduce latency, which is ultimately going to create a better experience for their internal customers. We're able to work with customers on scaling bandwidth, simplifying operations, and overall improving visibility across their network, which is going to allow them to really be able to focus on, are we getting the most out of the network, which is ultimately driving those outcomes from an AI perspective. And Anthony, I'm going to kick over to you to really dig into, when we talk about specifics of how we use the network and how do we drive those AI initiatives forward.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. And I think you said something really important, which is, how do we bring users closer to the AI? AI performance is closely tied to network performance. And even the best AI applications, they'll feel slow if the network isn't optimized. So the network is really becoming part of the AI experience. It's all about latency, optimized routing, and getting access to clouds. So whether that's a hyperscaler or that's getting to a GPU hosted in the data center, it's really about reducing the network hops, optimizing routes, improving the overall connectivity using things like direct connects, and just supporting it globally. These AI applications, they don't sit regionally. You need to access them from all over the world. And just building that network fabric is really important. I mean, the result is faster response times, improved user experiences, and just a more reliable access to the AI applications. So we talk about AI in operations. I mean, this is really where we see things happening every day, just improving. And it's something that you can actually apply to daily changes and just daily functions of your network operations team. So it's actually changing how networks are managed. So instead of engineers manually sifting through dashboards and tickets, we're able to actually surface insights much faster by using AI applications. We're also using it, and we see our customers using it to consolidate and correlate alerts across environments. It actually will take feeds from different systems, different devices, consolidate it, correlate it, and help the team focus on an actual issue rather than thousands of alarms. So you can take all that, filter through what's important, show it to your support person or your NOC engineer. Looking ahead, we'll take this even further, and we see our customers taking it even further. Automatically rerouting of traffic, looking at upstream issues and opening tickets, and just overall optimizing performance dynamically is something that we see coming in the very near future. So today at 1111, we do this, and we rely heavily on our vendors to implement the technology. So some of our SD-WAN vendors and our SASE vendors, they're already building this into the application, and we include that as part of our overall NAS service. Going forward, we expect to embed this more into some of our native applications as well. AI is becoming more than an application running on the network. It's really becoming how the network operates itself, and it's embedded in everything we do. So we talked a little bit about latency. I mean, latency is part of it, but high throughput is another part of it. So as AI adoption grows, the amount of data that you need to move across the network also grows. So whether you're training models, you're moving large data sets that require significant amount of throughput and performance, you're going to need to scale the bandwidth. You're going to need it reliable, and you're going to need to be able to implement it fast. So these AI environments and data centers are scaling very quickly. You really need a network that could scale alongside of it. You have to be able to really support the full data path, everywhere from the backbone connectivity, being able to move workloads globally, and that you can use for moving or seeding data. But also, you need to get the last mile connectivity back into these AI environments or back to the backbone. So there's multiple components, all of which are requiring more and more bandwidth. So really the key there is like the success you're going to have with getting your data into the AI is really going to depend on what kind of network that you put in place and building it in order to scale to meet the ongoing growth of data. When we talk about security and visibility, so as I mentioned, now you have data really being transferred all over the world. You have it going into these multiple clouds, multiple models. The key is like, how do you track that now? How do you ensure that you know where your data is going? How do you ensure that it's encrypted? So visibility is really, really critical. Companies are going to need to really monitor where their traffic is going, secure connectivity using things like SASE and some centralized firewalls that can do east-west type of traffic filtering, and just overall put a level of oversight on top of it. You know, at 1111, we do this for our customers. So, you know, we have customers that are using our network as a service platform. They want us to not only get them access into their AI environments, but they want us to add that security overlay. You know, we do that by simplifying visibility and performance, and also helping implement that security and governance framework.
Yeah, so I think that's those are some great components to that. And what I look at, Anthony, is, when we talk about why a managed network helps, I think one of the things that really resonates well when we speak with customers is that we come in as a partner, right? And I know you and I both come from the same mindset, and our sales team does as well, where we're not just looking to be another vendor, right? And it's really important when you sit down with a customer to think about where they're headed. And one of the things that I love about 1111 is we are a technology company first. We're not just coming at this from let's get you from A to Z, but really trying to understand what are they looking to accomplish within that network, and how do we best achieve those goals, right? So I think when you look at us being able to come in, sit down with a customer as a partner, and look at helping to manage their network and drive the AI objectives that they have, there's a few areas that we're able to really understand with them and drive that forward. So things like being able to scale, knowing where they're heading, not just where their network sits today, but understanding what is the best place for that data in the future, and where do they need the network components to grow quickly with that, right? I think that's a really important piece. Reducing complexity is a huge one, right? Being able to go in and say, what are you trying to drive? What is that outcome that we're looking to get to? And then how can we be the easy button for you, right? How can we help you to get there more efficiently? Let us work with the various last mile providers, the different technologies that are out, and ultimately drive the outcome that you're looking for, which is, hey, the network sits behind everything else, and that AI initiative and that use of data and the outcome, the experience, is just seamless sitting on top. Really working with customers to improve that reliability. If you're an IT team and you're sitting here looking at this ever-changing world, right, where you're asked to focus on internal initiatives, driving new technology, actually sitting and looking at what comes next with the business, but then also making sure that you're keeping the infrastructure running and on top of what's out there from that perspective, it's a lot. So being able to come in there as a partner and help improve the reliability, and continue to monitor and make changes to improve what they're seeing, I think is a critical component. And ultimately, all of those pieces allow the customer to focus on what initiatives make sense, right? And I think that's a big area that we see it within our business, where AI is really exciting and it can do so much. And we talk about it within 1111. I mean, you could use AI literally in every single department, but what is the right place for it, right? And you need a team internally to focus on which initiatives are going to get you the best return, what's going to be the best for your business. And what we've seen is, by us taking on a lot of that, the management, a lot of the day-to-day, a lot of the areas that I would say, divert focus from a IT team, and allowing them to focus on what's driving their business forward, is really critical as they move into this next evolution of their technology. So what does that all mean, right? Ultimately, we've talked about it. You've heard about it on different webinars that we've had. It's all over pretty much anywhere that you look in the technology news. AI is really exciting, right? And it's changing every single day. There's so much that it can do. But ultimately, and what we hope that we've hit on here, and we'd love to dig in with prospects, customers, partners further, is that it takes a network that's designed, built in support of AI initiatives in order to really be effective and to get the most out of that. You have to have fast connectivity. You have to have a reliable network, not just the carriers and the services you use, but how do you put it all together, right? What is that overlay? What is the monitoring, the management, the support that goes into it? What does that look like in terms of the throughput and the latency and everything that you're really trying to monitor to ensure success? Is it secure? That's obviously a piece that we didn't hit on here, and we've had a lot around the secure side of it, but really being able to secure that out to the edge. AI is opening up an entire new world of security risks for a business. that you really have to be on top of, and it's a lot for a team to be able to focus on that. And then ultimately getting visibility. Is the network doing what we expect it to do? Are we in a position that we can continue to scale, continue to grow, and continue to drive? And again, it's something that, from my standpoint, I look at it and love what AI can do for the business. It's been really exciting within 1111 to see how many different areas we've been able to really use AI to ignite efficiency, to get the most out of our people, and to see them really taking ownership within their individual departments, and ways that they can use AI to just do more, right? And we can do more for our customers, both internal and external. And to me, that all really starts with, do we have a network in place that can support those initiatives today and that can really grow and scale with us for the future?
Jeff, thank you really very much. Anthony, you as well. I really, lots of good information I think we shared with everyone there. Just as we get to this slide here, I want to let everyone know there is a QR code here and an opportunity to go ahead and download our white paper that really talks about some of the benefits of SD-WAN and some other networking factors that fit into the gist of our conversation here today, and how it incorporates with AI. Got some really good questions in the chat. Want to go through them, give Anthony and Jeff a chance to respond to that. And again, just a reminder, if we don't have a chance to get to your question, we will go ahead and follow up with you. All right, let me just grab one of these to start with. As organizations adopt more AI-driven applications, what changes are you seeing in network requirements compared to traditional, enterprise traffic?
I'll take this one, Jeff. So it's actually a really good and interesting question. I think what we're seeing is, as I mentioned earlier, the need for bandwidth and the need for low latency to get closer to the AI applications. The reality is, though, these have been requirements that have been with other industries in the past as well. We work with media and entertainment where high capacity and large files need to be transferred all around the world. We also work with financial institutions where every nanosecond matters on a trade. With AI, it's actually a combination of those things, and the scale is infinite, right? So where in media and entertainment, you're going to eventually hit a limit to the file size. With AI, there's really no limit there. So I would say that it's some common challenges. But the scale is much greater.
I would just, just to piggyback on that a little bit, I think it really creates the need to, understand what you're trying to use and where and how you can get the most out of the network. So ultimately, when you look at trying to drive that efficiency, if you don't know what you're trying to get out of the network, you're not gonna ultimately get there. Just coming in and saying, "Hey, I need an apples to apples network with what I have today." I just don't think that is, the best way for companies to go about it anymore. I think you really need to, as you're looking at refreshing the network environment you have, you really have to sit down and say, what do we need the network to do for us in the future, right? I don't need to just go out and look at replacing a circuit with the same circuit tomorrow. I need to look at it and say, is that circuit going to get the most out of what we need as we go forward? So I do think that where we are today, it's really important that businesses don't just think of business as usual, but really look at, is our network doing the most for us as we go forward?
Well, those are good answers. All right, we've got more questions. Let's see here. How important are low latency and predictable performance when supporting AI workloads across distributed environments?
I mean, it's extremely important. You just think about as a home user, if you log in to say ChatGPT and you ask it a question, you're anticipating you're going to get an instant response. If you don't get an instant, something's wrong. Now take that and let's say you're running a mission critical application or you're using an agent for a very important job and that's being delayed. It's not as fast as you'd like, the timing's off or you have to wait for it. Just the overall experience won't be there. So really got to take a lot of time to understand like where does the model live? Where does the application live? And then how can you get there as quick as possible? And even on your backup routes, make sure that those routes have the least amount of latency as possible. So I would say that it's probably the most important aspect from a network perspective relating to being to access these applications.
That's awesome. I think we have time for a couple more. Let's see what we've got here. All right. How about what are the biggest network challenges customers run into when they're trying to scale AI initiatives? Good question.
Yeah, Anthony, I think this is a great one for you with your background coming from having designed and built many networks over the years. Like as you look at if you're stepping in to do this today with somebody versus what you might have done 5-10 years ago, how do you look at that differently?
I think the biggest challenge is speed. So if you're going to build a high capacity network, it takes time. There's fiber optics that need to be placed in the ground. There's cross connects that need to be run, and because there's just this kind of infinite amount of data that you're going to have to transfer and get access to. The challenge is going to be how do you deploy the networks fast enough? The way that you would design them is very similar to the way you would design, a network for, as I mentioned earlier, a media and entertainment company. Redundancy is important. The layer one stuff is important, but you have more time there to scale because the data sets are somewhat smaller. So the challenge is going to be how quickly can we build these networks for our customers. Luckily for us, we have some capacity already built on our backbone. We happen to leverage a certain technology that allows us to scale bandwidth very quickly globally. So we're in a good position there. But when getting to the last mile, you just need to have a team that can not only get you the connectivity there, but as you start to expand and upgrade, can get these things deployed quickly.
I think really is all fascinating, and it kind of all leads up to, I think, the next question. I think we've got time for this one. I think it's a really good one, and that is, so looking ahead, how do you see AI influence the evolution of managed networking and network as a service over the next few years? I love that question.
Yeah, I do too. I think ultimately, Anthony said before, the speed is a big difference, right? If you look back over the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years, things have evolved exponentially fast, right? We know that that's the case within technology in general, but being able to stay on top of the changes that are coming, being able to have your pulse on all the different providers that are out there, the different technology that's going to allow you to drive forward, all of those different elements is a lot, right? It takes a team to be able to do that. I think as businesses look at it, they're also looking at saying, hey, we now need new teams that are helping guide our internal strategies forward. And ultimately, when we talk to enterprise accounts and just accounts of all sizes, really, it's about how do we do the most within the resources that we have. So I think, to me, the idea of having a managed network provider, being able to get network as a service where you can come in and have that infrastructure layer, have the confidence behind what you're trying to drive, and really be able to focus on what are the initiatives that we're driving on top, and is our network both ready today, ready for the future, ready to scale and evolve with us, to where we have confidence that we're heading in a place that's going to take us really to an entire new world technology wise.
Thanks, Jeff. I really appreciate that opportunity to look forward, because I think, as we've hinted here, things do change quickly. And, just as I'm sure people are getting a handle on where they're at now, that's going to be changing before they know it. Thank you, everyone who was able to join us today. Anthony, Jeff, thank you for your time. Again, we will be following up with everyone who submitted questions. We had some great ones today. Also, again, everyone who joined us today, who registered, will be in a chance to win a pair for Meta glasses. And again, thank you, everyone. Good day.